Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton. And if you listen or watch my show on YouTube, it sounds like the same intro almost every time. This is someone else I met at an event I went to, right? And we talk about the events I go to, and I always make sure I get a VIP upgrade ticket so I can get into that little side room and talk to the people I really want to connect with. And I was so excited when my guest was announced to be speaking there. So I can't wait to introduce you to Phil Jones. Phil, welcome to the call.
Hey, Chris, it's a delight to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure for sure. And I told you when we met, I keep this on my desk, and I really do. Like, I look at it before I get on certain sales calls. And even sometimes my wife's at the other end of the house. Sometimes when I'm going to have a conversation with her, I'll look in here too and make sure I'm protecting myself and communicating correctly. I listened to the podcast you were on with Neil Dingra, which was just awesome. Neil's one of the guys who I look up to as well. And so I took some notes from that because I wanted to go in a little deeper on some of the stuff from there, but also because some people may watch or listen to my show that don't listen to Neil's. So I wanted to come back and cover some of that as well. But one of the things I really loved about the conversation, it was right in the beginning of that podcast, it was ghosting. We talked about ghosting. And I think you said something along the lines of the ghosting. You talked about it. Was it the Keller Williams big event? Maybe was it their event?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I coach a lot of Keller Williams agents, so they'd said something to me about it. So, can you kind of go into what you said on that? Do you remember what you said when he talked about ghosting?
I think what I probably talked about was that it's highly probable they didn't ghost you. Yeah. Is that you were just not relevant or useful enough to be worthy of an immediate reply.
Yeah.
And it's kind of ignorant for us to think that somebody had so much malice and so much venom against you that they were going to quote unquote ghost you. Like you're not even that important. They're not intentionally ignoring you. They just are not intentionally responding to you. That's a different puzzle. And I think when you understand that that's the puzzle, you can take ownership for it. You stop thinking that this is, they are the problem. And you start realizing actually your language, your ask, your communication, your timing, your cadence, exactly what you said. These are all things that could be standing in the way of why you didn't get a reply, more so than the other person is in some way mean.
Yeah, I'm that guy that goes down that rabbit hole and goes, man, these people hate me. Like, I can't help it. I think that's just I look back I talk a lot about when I speak and I have different stuff. I talk about middle school Chris, which was this 5'5", 170 pound kind of fat, awkward kid that felt out of place. Right. And so he gets in my head when people don't respond right away. Right. Or I don't see the bubbles on the screen. Like it, you know what I mean? So I think that's so powerful. I'm glad you said that. And then I look back at it, I'm like, well, I don't intentionally ghost people. Sometimes I don't, their question wasn't worthy of an answer. Like,
or it wasn't. I mean, in text and email and DM, like the number one reason that people don't get replies to their messages is because they presented them as statements and they didn't ask them as questions. And you're like, people are like, this dude's not replying. I'm like, you didn't give him anything to reply to. Like you just said, new properties come available on ABC location. Picture. That's a statement. Inside voice says, oh, great. Not for me.
And this is, so I apologize to people that are listening. This calls more about me than it is about you guys. So I hope you'll pick up a couple of things because this is like a session I've been waiting for.
This is Chris saying I want a coaching session disguised as a podcast interview. That's what
exactly. That's what we're going to do. And, but I think that a lot of people have the same questions that I do. I mean, they're not off the wall questions, but, I have a hard time slowing down to think what to say.
Okay.
And I'll tell you my history. So I came from the automotive industry. I started selling cars when I was 19 years old. And I was very scripted. That's what we did. We were scripting. You knew what to say, when to say, how to and my mind started working so fast with that scripting technique then. Now I feel like I struggle with that sometimes, slowing down to think about what to say. I'm just curious, what's your thought with that? I mean,
well, why do you think you struggle with it?
Sometimes it's because I think I'm going to forget what to say to them. Like as the conversation goes, I drift sometimes. So I want to answer faster and then I don't think through my answer.
Okay. How often do the answers that you give fast actually get you to the point of conclusion that you were hoping to with the client, prospect, or other person?
I don't know exactly, but I would say not as much as I want it to.
Mm-hmm. So it could be possible that on occasion that they ask a question, you give a fast answer, and you just created 2 new questions.
Yes.
And the leader in a conversation, the person who's taking responsibility for creating the change, the job is to have somebody feeling clear about their next course of action. So most often when somebody asks a question, they weren't actually looking for the answer. What they were looking for is somebody to help getting the mess with them and decipher what their next best step should be. That's different. So give me examples of questions you find yourself being asked.
I mean, I'm a performance coach. That's the space that I operate in every day. It's like team building. Like someone will come to me and they'll say, "Okay, I need to figure out what to do with my team next."
Okay.
And they'll start the conversation, and then I'll respond rapid fire without going deeper with them, because I'll give them what my solution is for my team, right?
Yeah.
And then I realize at the end of the conversation, well, that didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I was having a conversation trying to build more opportunity for me to come and lead their organization or help them, but I gave them the answers that are my answers, right? Like,
and you try to sell them on your idea.
Yeah.
And then they said, it's different here though, Chris. And now you're in checkmate with yourself.
Yes.
Okay. What you'd be better to do is just ask questions like, well, what are some of the things you've tried in the past? And they'll be like, I know this one. You say, well, what did you learn from what you tried in the past? And they say, I know this one. You'll say, well, out of the things that you've done in the past, is there anything that you think you might do again? And they say, well, maybe this. You say, well, what do you know about how other people might approach this same puzzle? They say, not much. You say, well, would it help if I could share with you a handful of other ideas that have worked not only for me, but with other clients that we've supported with? And we can look at those alongside what you've done in the past. And they'd say, yes. You'd say, well, other people have done this, and I've done this, and these folks have done this. Taking that into all account, what do you think you might do from here?
So you literally just walked them down the path that you wanted it to go, really, but they had to come up with their own solutions along the way, and
Chris,
you didn't suggest anything, right?
Let's make this insanely easy. Why don't we talk about the hardest conversation in the world? And the hardest conversation to navigate in the world is a question that many of us get asked on repeat, that causes chaos and destruction inside many a household across the Western world. And the question in question is the question, what would you like for dinner?
I thought you were going to go somewhere else,
right?
Especially with it being so close to November. I thought we were going somewhere else with that.
Right.
But yeah, yes, you're exactly right. That was last night at my house.
Right. So what happens is people ask a very direct question. Somebody says, what do you like for dinner? You're like, oh, I was thinking I wanted to get Chinese food tonight. And they're like, no, I don't want Chinese. We had that last week. And you're like, oh, I'd rather cook in. And before we know it, we're having an argument that started with, what did you like for dinner? Look at how that same conversation could be dealt differently. They say, what do you like for dinner? You say, I'm not so sure. What do you have for lunch? They go, I know this one. You say, well, how hungry are you? They say, I'm pretty hungry. You say, where's your vibe? You want to stay in? You want to get out of the house? Like, what are you feeling? I don't want to go anywhere. I mean, I've already taken a shower. Already in my comfies. Okay. So, you fancy cooking? You want me to cook? Should we grab something in? Well, I don't know. What do you think? Well, what do we got in the fridge? Not much. Okay, well, we're probably not cooking. So we want to stay in, and we're not cooking. Okay? So you have anything in front of your mind that you'd like us to order in? No, nothing in particular. Well, I was like semi-hankering Chinese food earlier. Do you have any objection against us having Chinese tonight? No objection whatsoever. Okay. Well, if I'm to order from the Chinese, do you want the same as you had last time or something different? Yeah, same as last time's good. Great, I get that done.
and it took a little bit less time, but you got there smoother. Right?
It actually takes less time overall. This is the
Yeah.
thing that blows
Yeah.
people's minds, right? They think, I don't have time to ask all those questions. So what they do is they waste a lot of time from not asking those questions and find themselves in chaos and objections and like needing to follow up and push and overcome indecision and negotiate through change, etc. It was all avoidable. And momentum is what carries you forward. Not being right, getting the right result. And this is what, causes people problems, Chris. And we were talking offline coming in, and it is so much business today is done in short form communications over text. Text messages, DMs, Facebook Messenger, a quick email back and forth, comments under posts, right? This is where business gets done. And what happens is people ask questions of you like, so how does your coaching service work? And you show up and throw up and tell them everything about how it works. And there's this package and this package and this package at this price and this price and this price. And you're like, dang, I sent them everything. And they ghosted me. You didn't. You just overwhelmed them. Wouldn't you be better that they said, how did your coaching services work? And you say, well, what is it about me and my work that makes you think that we could be a good fit? And they say, well, I've been chatting with Johnny, and Johnny's been a client of yours for God knows how long, and ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Okay. Well, had you given some consideration to the kind of outcomes or results that you're looking to try and achieve if we were to work together? Well, what I was hoping we could do is ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. Well, if you were to achieve those kind of outcomes, what would that be worth to you and your life and your family and your business? Got it. Well, what do you understand about the kind of packages and programs that we provide for people like you? Not much. Well, before I give you everything, just answer me this. Do you see a preference of working one-on-one or as part of a small group or joining some form of online community? Well, to be honest, I hate communities and groups. If I'm going to do this, I want to work all by myself. Just me and you. I'm selfish that way. Got it. We understand one-on-one comes at a more increased premium fee than working as part. Yeah, I get that. I got the money. Well, how soon were you looking to get started? Well, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be starting straight away. Oh, dang, I forgot. We haven't even talked about the price yet, right?
Man, that's yes. I'm glad I'm recording this, obviously, because it's a podcast, or I'd be feverishly taking notes. Could you say that again? Mm-hmm. So this is one of those I'll transcribe and read multiple times. I want to step back for a second, because I look at all this information, like everything you've given us already in 13 minutes on the call, which has just been solid gold. How did you get here? I feel that you're like, in my world, you're a modern day Yoda. You're very wise, and obviously you got here by trying, and understanding where you wanted to go, I believe. But like, how did you get there? I think that's super important. For me, it's super important.
I'm remarkably fortunate that for my age, I have an obnoxious amount of experience. Now, I've got myself busy to earn that experience, and that goes as way back as I was running businesses in my teens, and I mean like real businesses, knocking on the doors of my neighbors, asking them if they wanted to have their cars washed. By the age of 15, I had a car washing business that had me making more money than most of my school teachers. I was building businesses all through my teens. I was the youngest ever sales manager for one of the biggest department store groups in the UK, leading teams of 30, 40, 50, 60 people, big turnovers, multiple transactions a day. Same as I did a ton of work opening and turning around broken stores in the furniture retail business, hundreds of transactions daily, leading people in heavy consultations to maximize average transaction value, to try and do it with efficiency. So what you can do is not only get the results, but get the results quickly. I studied with the guy that bought Dale Carnegie's work to the UK. We wrote a number of training programs for a big department store group together that are still used inside that business today. Head of retail commercial director with 2 Premier League soccer clubs. So, I learned about licensing. I learned about like negotiations from player transfers, and how what you can do is create leverage through the people that you have to be able to catalyze and use them as influencers to be able to help your product run faster. Built an overseas investment property business that turned over £240 million at its peak, We were selling freehold investments to UK investors through the Independent Financial Advisor Network. So I was presenting and I was working on one-on-one consultations to create referral partners. I was sat with homeowners, helping them decide to put hundreds of thousands of dollars into a piece of property that they haven't yet seen, that hasn't yet been built, that is in a foreign country. I then started a small sales training business back in 2008. And since then, I've now worked with over 800 different industries. I've worked on 60 different countries, 5 different continents, trained more than 2 million people. And what that teaches you, Chris, is that most people have more commonality in the challenges they're looking to overcome than they do have differences. Most industries want to say it's different here. And there are differences. But the similarities outweigh the differences. And I think what many people forget is we're in the people business. We're in the business of influencing other people. And we've been trained in a sales capacity point of view that you push and to always be closing and to perfect your pitch and to like all this 1980s nonsense that doesn't have to be that way. I started my sales training business as a sales training business for non-salespeople, for people who didn't see themselves as salespeople that needed to sell for a living. So this was professional services, it was accountants, it was legal, it was independent business owners that had found themselves good at a thing that then needed to be able to ask for money to get paid to be good at the thing. And the one commonality that they all had wasn't that they didn't have hard work and hustle and high product knowledge and they didn't have the care about the people. They had all the good stuff. What they didn't know is exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to make it count. And they thought that to win at selling meant that they had to be something that they were not. What I've learned to be true is that nice guys can win ball games. That actually we operate in a world that if you're patient enough to help people understand really what the problem is they're trying to solve, they'll trust you with the solution. If you try to sell people on your solution, they'll say that's not the problem.
So is that focusing on the pain, right? The pain for the reason they're wanting to make the decision?
I'm on a one-man mission to stop people trying to be able to find the pain points. I'm desperate to stop people digging deeper and probing. Listen to that language for a second, right? Would you like people to enter into a conversation with you, Chris, and aggravate your pain points? Do you want somebody to probe at you?
No, I do not want somebody to probe at me.
Someone digging deeper? Or do you want somebody to care? Do you want somebody to understand the potential upside of the change that you could potentially make in your life? Do you want somebody to have enough emotional intelligence to be aware of the potential consequences of you not making that change? And that's what we're looking to be able to try and do when somebody says dig deeper, find their pain points, etc. But it's lazy language coming in, which creates lazy language when you're in the act of trying to help somebody. Because what you do is you dehumanize the individual you're looking to influence or persuade. They're not a prospect, they're a person.
Do you find, like, so from a salesman's point, like I feel like I'm really good at building rapport with people. I'm a guy that can have a conversation and find out about them, not just trying to sell them something. Can you go too far with that because you're not asking the right questions to try to sell, like from
100%.
a sales perspective?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, and I think we have to be aware that making friends of people and building rapport are not the same thing. Now, they may lead to the same thing, but they're not the same thing. And a mistake that many people make is they spend too much time trying to get somebody to like you.
Yes.
And I know we've been told that people do business with those that they know, like, and trust. But trust is the most important thing. Like, I don't particularly like Amazon, but I do a ton of business with them.
Me too.
Right? Because I trust that they're going to do what they said they're going to do. I trust that if something goes wrong, they're going to fix it. And, I know that they have a predictability in their service. I don't have to like them.
Yeah.
And is what we are better to be able to show people is that we know them. And that we have the ability to be able to actually help guide them from where they are to where they want to go. And when people are looking to make a buying decision, Chris, there are three things they're asking. They're asking, have you done this before? Have you done it recently? And have you done it for someone like me? So you have to understand enough about their true situation so you can present a version of, here's how we've helped somebody in this scenario before. Here are the kind of results that we achieve for that somebody that's like you before. Oh, and by the way, this was just a short period of time ago. And they go, check, check, check. Good enough for them, good enough for me.
So essentially proof that we can say what we're going to, we can do what we say we're going to do, right?
And the reason to ask more intelligent questions in any form of conversation is to remember that prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. So if you don't actually have enough information to be able to make a meaningful prescription, you're guessing and hoping and pushing and embellishing is not the right way to go.
That's so good. I mean, as soon as you said that, I just started thinking about blunders I've made in my career of diagnosing. I'm like, and pre-qualifying the wrong people and leading people in a direction where they didn't want to go or they shouldn't be going. And I think that's because we're programmed to try to sell as soon as we can.
Correct. And we're taught about like features and benefits.
Yeah.
And the job isn't to give people 100 reasons why they should buy your thing. It's to give them no good reason why they shouldn't.
Oh man. Yeah.
That's different, right? Particularly when you look at non-essential services like coaching or consulting or training or being a real estate agent or being a loan originator, etc. Is there are lots of alternative options than you. So if you can give people no good reason to not work with you, by deduction, you're the best choice. And note this too, right? There's a lot of talk about presenting and demonstrating your value. This is hot topic right now, like demonstrating and presenting your value. And the real estate industry blows my mind with this because what people are doing is they're writing a shopping list of all the things that on the face of it make them valuable.
Yes.
What they're realizing or failing to realize is they're actually walking themselves into a devaluing conversation. Because if you show somebody, here are 100 things that I do that make me worth my money, and somebody looks at that list of things and says, I only need half of them, what price do they want to?
I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly what I thought as soon as all the NAR stuff started coming out and they started posting all the stuff they did. I'm like, okay, well, but I only need you to do 3 of these. Will you do it for 0.25%?
Right.
Yeah.
And people have to be very wary that not all advice is good advice. There's a big difference between opinion and advice, and an opinion is nothing more than what I say it is. Advice comes from somebody who's actually got a well-structured argument to why this is the case, maybe has a proven track record in doing things in the right kind of way. And when industries go through change, well, the vultures come out and look for fast ways to be able to either put Band-Aids on bullet wounds or to try and profit from the chaos with a quick answer. In every one of these challenges and changes that we're talking through, what people are forgetting is that the consumer is the star of the show. That would never change. And what we should look to do as true experts is to stop trying to showcase our expertise and instead learn what puzzles the people we're trying to support are trying to solve, and then get into the mess with them and solve those problems faster and easier and with more grace than anybody else can do in your market. You get paid pretty well for doing that.
Yeah, without a doubt. So let me ask you this. So is it, we need to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
First we need, and we need to practice, right? Don't we need to practice? I mean, like spend time learning and understanding exactly what to say.
I'm going to give one piece of direct advice. And it's kind of, it's kind of weird for me to give this piece of direct advice. The direct advice that I would share is to stop giving advice. And I'm going to challenge you, Chris, and everybody else listening in to try something. Could you live an entire day of your life delivering approximately 0 advice? No tell. All ask.
I think I could. And I also think it'd be refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because it doesn't put as much stress on me to ask and not give advice. Like if I've
Right.
got 6 one-on-one calls today, if I gave zero advice and just asked, if I said, okay, I'm going to do that all the way through, I bet my night will be a lot calmer than,
Yeah.
than the amount of advice that was poured out.
Correct. You won't overload your clients. You won't create confusion. You won't have a retention issue where they're like, I've got so much on my plate that you've already given me, so let's put it on pause. What you'll have is you'll have people feeling more confident, clearer, with greater levels of certainty about what their next move should be. But in every area of your life, try it for a day. It's harder than you think it is. Zero advice at any given point in time. No tell. Everything's a question. Because your goal is to get to clarity. And most of us are jumping to the advice monster before we even know what the situation is we're giving advice into.
Yeah, I think that there's you get a little delusional with the fact, especially from my chair, that I have to bring massive value on every call for and the advice you think sometimes is the massive value, which um, I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I see that. So I take you up on the challenge, and I will do that starting tomorrow. I'm going to run Friday on all my calls, no advice, and just ask questions.
And people think content and information is valuable. It's not. It's becoming less valuable. As it becomes more readily available, information doesn't have value. Knowing the right context for that information to be implemented is valuable.
Yeah, that's so good.
We're teaching people how to swing a hammer and telling them what brand of hammer to get. We're not telling them and teaching them to learn where to hit it.
Oh man. Phil, I love you, dude. You're last August of 2023, I walked away from a very lucrative career in the mortgage industry. I was ready to go out on my own and coach and lead and speak. And I wrote a book. It's right here behind me, One Jordan. And thank you. And it was on a billboard in Times Square a couple months ago. And I look at the people in my life. I've been really good at positioning the right people. Like, you know who Renee Rodriguez is?
I know Renee, yeah.
So Renee is my speaking coach. He wrote the foreword for my book, and he's
Fantastic.
my guy. And then Ben Newman is my other coach. And so Ben is, I don't know if you've met Ben or not, but you should know Ben at some point. He's an amazing performance coach. And then a guy named Adam Roach. Those are my coaches in that. And then now I'm getting advice from who I consider Yoda, which is just another piece. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation and pour into me a little bit, but also to share with everybody else.
You bet.
I want to respect your time, but I wanted a couple more things real quick before we jump off. Most of my business these days is done selling through chat, through DMs. I learned to do that, sell chat through DMs from Dan Martell, who's really good at it.
He
really
is.
good at it.
He's a good friend.
And actually wrote a chapter in my book about Dan Martell. So, exactly what to say. Well, how about exactly what to say in chat or DMs? I mean, I think that's because I get blown up all day long through LinkedIn and Instagram on cold reach outs. People always trying to sell me something, right? I don't respond to any of those cold reach outs. I just don't have the time or the bandwidth to do it. But when it comes to the warm side, where people follow me or people comment on my stuff or whatever, do you have an exactly what to say when it comes to DM and chat?
Yeah, it's about the same as we teach in all forms of conversation.
Okay.
And the job is to be pulley. If you're looking to enter into successful conversations in a chat environment, the mistake that many people make is they just push forward. What have you got planned? How can I help? Anything that is forward facing. What you're better to do is to go backwards. And that could be starting with, so how did you first come into contact with my content? That could be a question that is, hey, thank you for, a preface statement. Thank you for, commenting on the post. Thank you for engaging in the piece about blank, blank, and blank. And then you ask a question about them, their life and their experience and their opinion on the opinion they gave on your opinion. Here we go.
So like what I, depending on which piece of content it is or whatever, like I always start out with like, hi Phil in the chat. And then I'll say, thanks for the follow. Are you here for the content or are you here to grow your business?
That's fine.
Right. And it's amazing what those conversations will go to from there.
Yep. And
but
that's good. And that has efficiency to it. It also though it triggers a little bit of a salesperson alarm, because the answer could be both. And I know what's coming next. So I'm okay with this as a gateway. What I'd love to know is, what's your next move? Because they're going to say both, or they're going to say, I'm here to grow my business. Or they're going to say, I'm 13 and I live in Africa and I just love to right? Any of these kind of versions are very, very realistic. So if they say both, or I'm here to grow my business, what do you do next?
Well, if they're here to grow their business, then I find out what kind of business they're in. Just curious, what are you in? Yeah. What are you doing? And then I go to I try to go to the pain points there. Like, where do you business? I'm in real estate. Great. How's the market going for you in real estate? Okay.
You see how now you're jumping straight forward. Stay backwards.
I do see that.
Stay backwards. So what you would potentially say is, so what line of business you're in? Let's say they're in real estate. You say, well, how long have you been in that game? They're like, I know this one. How'd you go about getting started in real estate? What were you doing before? You see the case I'm building by just
yes, I do.
Caring a little bit more.
Yep.
And so you've been in the business 7 years. Like, what have you learned over that 7-year period of time? What kind of level of production are you achieving? How does that compare to others in your market? Where do you want to be in your market? Are you happy being in the middle of the pack, or would you like things to be kind of different? Well, I guess
so. I love it. So you got them. I know that answer. And then when you ask how do you compare in the market, what do you want things to be different? That opens the door for you to come back in and do some problem solving at that point, right?
Correct. But also stay neutral for longer. And I am going to give one more piece of advice, which is to never speak in absolutes. So if you note with some of these questions that I'm packaging, it's, like, how do you kind of line up with, the others in your marketplace? And what are some of the things that you've been doing and trying?
Okay.
Like, if you're not saying, like, what's your number one, what's your top, what's the most important, those are hard questions to answer. And they're even harder questions to answer over text. If you say, well, what are some of the important things that you're looking to work on over the weeks and months and years ahead? What's the number one thing that you want to solve in your business? I don't know.
So what are some of the things you want to solve in your business, or
what are some of the things that you're working on? What are some of the things that if you were to maybe make progress would make the biggest impact in your life or your business? Just be more playful in the language to create more room in the questions. I mean, that they can have more room for the answer.
So you feel the longer you have them in the chat, the more likely you are to convert that to the client?
And I believe that every time that you have a back and forth, my belief is that is called a transaction. And once you have somebody transacting with you, it's easier to get them to transact with bigger numbers. Because in every one of those exchanges, there's a level of trust built. Like, we have a 3-day certification program on all things exactly what to say. It's a $5,500 ticket price. It's in New York City. The hotels aren't the cheapest hotels in the world, and you've got to get yourself there and get yourself back. Chances are you're going to be close to 10 grand out of pocket to come to these events. I personally will work a number of conversations back and forth in DMs and on chats, etc., to get people to come on board. 0 phone calls, 0 consultations, a little bit of back and forth.
How many people do you have in a room when you do that event?
35.
Okay.
And what we do in those environments, though, is I believe that people are looking for a few things. One, they're looking to see, are you actually human? Like, do I feel like this is somebody that is going to give me enough of their personal attention? Because this is a fair-sized deal to me. And the back and forths demonstrate a level of care and responsiveness and access. That's a good thing. The other thing that they do is they have somebody feeling like you know them. And the goal is to hit the show me that you know me button. When you hit the show me that you know me button, you get to trust. Like they could say, tell me about your event. And I could say, here's the link. Here's the landing page. Here's the 12-minute video. Here's the 47 testimonials. Here's all the FAQs. Here's your options over price. And they're overwhelmed. When I ignore all of that, and by alternative, I ask some questions about like, what might you be hoping to achieve if you were to come? What have you heard from others that have enjoyed the experience? Hey, what reservations, worries, or concerns do you have as to whether this could be a fit for you? Tell me. You say, sounds to me like there's no good reason why you wouldn't join us. Well, you said you got the dates. You know other people that have been and had a good time from it. You've said that what like good would look like is if you got clarity on this and this and this and this, and that would be more than worth it for you. Explain to me why you wouldn't just commit to having one of the last available seats.
I love that. So let me ask you this as we wrap it up here. What's the best way for people to find out about that?
Shoot me a note on Instagram. I'm at Phil M. Jones UK. And we can have some back and forth if you want. We can see if we can qualify whether this is right for you. And I love not only teaching people exactly what to say, I love working on my own personal practice every day too. And there are very few people in our worlds that are in the teaching business of anything, the helping business of anything, that will care as much about continuing to be a student of their work as I am. And I think that's why sometimes when people say like Phil, how do I get to be as good as you at these things? How do I get to think as fast as you do on these things? How do I get to be able to craft questions as quickly as you can craft questions? And I'm like, you won't catch me, because I care about this too much. And I'm already
like trying to catch Kobe Bryant, right? Like, I mean, like you're constantly on the move for that, right? Like,
and I'm already 3 laps ahead of everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if you make my pace, you don't catch me.
No, I love that. Look, Phil, I know we got a time crunch here, man. I thank you so much for taking the time out. You were so nice to meet in person in Las Vegas and very approachable. If you're at an event and you see Phil, please go talk to him. Like, he's just a great guy. And, sign up for his event. Like I'm already thinking about 2025. So I want to look at the schedule for 2025.
We got March 2025, Chris, is all I've got in person. And no joke, at this point, we silently made it available 10 days ago. And 32 or 35 spots have already gone without me having to promote it. Like that's the way I like to do business.
Yeah.
Not cold calling leads, but building reputation and having one-on-one back and forth with people that meet the criteria that I'd like to hang out with for 3 days. So if you're thinking about it, then hit me up in my DMs.
I need to know the dates. I'm interested, so I need to know the dates to make sure it doesn't conflict with any of my speaking stuff.
It's the last day in March and the next 2 days in April. So I think it's either the 30th and then the 1st and the 2nd, 31st, 1st and the 2nd. I don't know how many days there are in March. Okay.
Well, if you're listening to this still, please follow Phil. And grab the book. I love it. It's like I told Phil, it's on my desk. It really is. It sits here. I know so many people that have taken advantage of his teachings, and it have just been amazing.
You bet it, man. You bet. And just keep changing the world one conversation at a time.
Thank you for tuning into the One Hand at a Time podcast. Please make sure you like and share the episode. And we'll see you next time here at the One Hand at a Time podcast. Make it a great day.